I'm visiting with Waylon Jennings. Waylon, I'm sure everybody wants to know how you're feeling. I think, excuse me, and about your bypass surgery, your heart surgery. How many bypasses?
Well, I think I had 3 and 1 brain bypass.
I see. I've always thought you needed that.
I've always thought I did too. No, I'm feeling really good. You know, it's kind of a slow thing back, and everything ain't completely there, but it will be. But 90%.
When did you have the surgery?
I had it in December of last year.
What happened? What were the signals to you that something was wrong?
Well, I was in the first thing I had was in California, and I had been there, and I did a show, and I come home that night, and I was sitting around the room fixing to go to bed, and I sat on the side of the bed, and I coughed, and it was like my arms were coming off, which was really funny. But I mean, so Denver Pyle always gives me this what he calls beagle oil, and so I had some of that with me, and so I put it on my arms, and Jesse rubbed my arms real good because they were really hurting bad. And so that's what I thought it was something, to do with muscles. The next morning I got up and I went to have breakfast, and I was going to lay back down and get a quick nap, and it started again. And then I got up and I thought, well, I'll take a walk and see if it felt like really that I had something on my lungs, like water I'd gotten fluid in my lungs was what it felt like. And my arms were hurting real bad, like in the muscles from the elbow down to the hand. But anyway, that was the second time. And then the third time, we'd moved to another hotel that day, and it would come and go like that. And I tried to lay down again, and it got real bad then, but I finally got to sleep. And when I woke up, it felt like nothing had ever happened, So I went and I did one show at the Crazy Horse. And in between shows, I remember I was sitting there, and there's a restaurant there, a real good restaurant in that hotel, in the club there. And we were all sitting around the table, and I looked at Jessie, and she'd been through it that day. You can imagine, not knowing what was wrong with me, and I was in really bad shape and didn't realize it. And I said to her, Jessie, you look awful tired. You better get you some rest. And that may have been the last rest she's had since then, because in about 5 minutes later, it hit me again, and then I had to go to the hospital, and they did an angioplasty out there, which is putting the balloon in there and opening it up. And sometimes there's about a 25 to 30% chance it'll close back up, but there's 70 to 75% it won't, But mine happened to close back up, and so I was back here, and that's about 3 weeks later, maybe 4. And I was going to go work with John Cash, and we were doing a benefit over in Bristol, Tennessee. And the night before, we was going to have a big picnic and everything, and have a big get-together over there before we played that afternoon, because that's right over there close to Po Valley where June comes from. So I called him and said, I'm not feeling real good, so I'm just going to come do the show and come right back and go see the doctor. And John was already in bed because he was feeling bad.
Mm-hmm.
So he called me back, and he asked me, he said, what's it feel like? And I said, well, I explained to him. He said, well, I had to get some paramedics had to give me oxygen yesterday, and so I said, you might better have it checked. And sure enough, when I got up the next morning, I was going to go over there. Well, I was in real bad pain, and John's doctor, was my doctor was off that day, and they gave me John's doctor and he said, well, you better come by and let me check you. And I said, no, I'll go on. They had given me some nitroglycerin tablets. And they told me to take one of them for pain. So I'd taken one of those. I said, I'll be all right now. So about out the Old Hickory, out on the Knoxville Highway, about 20 miles out, I told the driver, I said, guess you better take me back. And that's when I went back and found out I had to have the open heart surgery. But I'm doing good now.
How long after you had your operation did Johnny Cash have his?
John had his. He came in there to see me right after I had mine. And so I said, check him while he's in here. And so about an hour later, he come back and said, I hope you're satisfied. Now I got to have it, And he was about 5 days after me.
So you were in the hospital. Were you in the same hospital?
Yeah, right across the hall from each other.
So you were there at the same time?
Yeah, he was He stayed there for 5 days because he had been smoking and they was wanting to clear his lungs out, you know. So he was telling him he wasn't smoking and he was sneaking off and smoking, you know, in my room.
Were you a smoker?
I was a bad smoker before that, yeah. But I quit. I quit when I was in California.
Waylon, have you had to change your lifestyle?
Yeah, you got to, you know what? I had to change it to what I should have changed it to a long time ago. You know, one thing I learned from the operation, you know, and I'll tell you when I thought about it and figured it out, is when I came out of the operating room, I wound up being allergic to morphine, and consequently I was awake all the time until they found out what was wrong because I couldn't get my breath right, you know. But I was laying there and I was in the recovery room and thinking, and I realized your body, you know, when you have an operation like that, I mean, it fights it, and it's mad. It's just, that's the only way I know to describe it, you know. But we're put on this earth and we got everything we need right to eat. And what we want to do then is preserve some of that stuff and put stuff in it that we're not supposed to have in it. And then we're going to grow us a few things that we can smoke and eat and snort, you know. And then we're going to send some people to some schools to help us get by with it. So that's what it amounts to. You shouldn't be cut on, but you shouldn't be doing it wrong to begin with, you know. But that's, you know, if it wasn't for hindsight, Ralph, I wouldn't have no sight at all.
Well, by that I mean, have you had to
I do a lot of exercise.
well,
you know.
change your diet and adopt some sort of exercise routine, that sort of thing?
Well, you don't, you know, the cholesterol thing and fat, you know. And but you know, it's amazing. All I did was just change my menu. It may be better on me than anybody else, because I ate one thing, and that was steak, you know, all the time. And I'm finding some great food now that doesn't, you know, I mean, I don't even eat red meat now. But you know, I eat a lot of fish and chicken and things like that, but a lot of vegetables.
You walk every day?
You know what? I'm not into walking that much, but I do exercise. I do anywhere from 20 to 30 to sometimes an hour and a half a day in exercise.
Now, that had to be different for you.
Very different. But you know what? Now, that is kind of like a drug or something, because once you start doing it, your body makes you know, your conscience is just all over you if you don't do it. And that's a good part about that, the easier part.
And we're talking about, I guess it would be safe to say you're brush with death.
Yeah, it's close.
Waylon had triple bypass surgery for his heart. Did it ever bother you that you might die from this?
Well, you know, I'll tell you what was kind of weird, you know, when like I say, I woke up and I was in recovery. And usually you're not awake in there very often. You know, you don't remember anything. I can remember from the minute I woke up, and because, like I say, I was allergic to the morphine, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't get my breath. And when you start trying to breathe against those, and they had to be on a respirator and everything, you know, and all of that stuff, all the tubes coming out of you. And I actually thought for a while that I was dying. I thought, well, this is what it amounts to when you can't get your breath, you know. And I still remember that feeling. I thought, well, and that's when I got the girl's attention, and then I had her, I said, you know, and I wrote her notes, you know. I couldn't say anything, but I told her that to get a hold of my wife, you know, and have her come in.
You were preparing to tell Jessie goodbye?
Yeah, I guess it was. You know, I don't know what it was. Or either that or ask her how I was doing. You know? In fact, that's the first thing I said. I said, well, am I going to make it or not? And she said, yeah, you're going to make it fine. You know? Or I wrote it out, you know. And,
now, why couldn't you talk?
Well, I had...
because you had so many things in
tubes.
Tubes in your mouth and tubes
See, you have machines that breathe for you. What do you call those things? I can't remember now.
Machines that breathe for you.
That'll work.
That'll do.
You know what? It was funny. I get another thing when you're laying there, and when I was laying there, I kept hearing these machines all around. There were other people in there, you know. In fact, there was one other person that came in there, and can you imagine this? Here, this very shy, meek little old girl in there was to keep everybody out. Well, right before I woke up, I mean, he must have woke me up, really. Tex Cobb came in.
Oh, the boxer.
Yeah, and the Tex Cobb is 9 feet tall, you know. And I mean, can you imagine that little girl saying, "No, you can't come in here unless you want to"? You know, I can see it now. But he came in to see me, and he must have been the one that woke me up because right after that he went up to see Jesse. You know.
Waylon, they have to go right through your sternum, don't they?
Yeah.
Breastbone.
Yeah.
Does that, long after the operation is over, does that cause you a lot of pain?
It's very painful. You know, because of my history with drugs, I had told them, you know, they said we're going, you know, they'll give me morphine. We'd talked about it. I said, don't get me strung out again, you know, something, you know, or give me drugs that you know, I come out of here and have another problem, you know. And they took me literally because when the morphine thing was gone, they said, well, we have something else for you, and it amounted to about a little more than a Tylenol. And that's what they gave me. And about the 5th day, I'd gone through about all I could. And I had told them, I said, well, tomorrow, if I'm no better, you know, if the pain's no better, because I was in terrible pain for about 4 or 5 days. You know, I could feel everything. And you don't know what it's like to have to cough. And that's part of the deal. You got to cough. And I believe that hurt worse than anything in my whole life. But I did do one thing. I put off sneezing. I put that off. I put it off for a month and a day, and about an hour. And I mean, for 1 hour, it was coming on, and I was going around the house trying to keep it. All of a sudden, it came on, and it wasn't nothing I could do. But I could have sold that. I could have sold that sneeze to Bell Mead over here. Oh. Anybody in society would have loved it, because all it amounted to was chew.
Waylon, after your open heart surgery, how long was it before you could sing again?
You know what? I guess it was about 3 months before I really tried it, you know, because I tell you, you know, you don't really feel like doing a whole lot, you know, for a while. You have to start out doing your exercise, which you know, they get you up to walk immediately, 2 days after you're there, you know. I mean, after you're operated on. But, you know, 5 minutes walking after you get home, which is 8 or 10 days after the operation, 5 minutes is a long time walking of exercise because you just barely can get around. So, and I think it was about 3 months when I did something. You know, I did a couple songs somewhere or something. I may have come out. You know what?
I think maybe you sang on Nashville Now.
I think it's the first time
with Johnny Russell.
Well, yeah, my patient.
Yeah, now John, we haven't mentioned Johnny Russell, but Johnny Russell also had bypass surgery right after you and John.
Yeah, I called. In fact, I talked to him the other day. I got to call his mom, talk to her, and tell her I'm all right. You know, but you know, I'll tell you what. See, it's funny because doctors do not tell you what to expect. They'll tell you what it is after you've had it, because I understand that. It made me mad for at first, because they had not told me this and that and another. And my guy that I would call and find out was James Garner. And I'd call him up and I'd say, what do you do when you have so-and-so?
You mean the movie star?
Yeah. He had it before. In fact, he helped me so much in finding food to eat and the right kinds of foods and things to make things taste like they used to, you know. And he, in fact, he even came to the house for a while. And he helped me a lot, but he'd laugh at me because, you know. But, you know, doctors won't tell you because there's no two cases alike to begin with, you know. I mean, like a lot of times, see, like I'm still from the center over left to almost to my arm. It's still dead, you know. I don't have any feeling there. Mm-hmm. But it'll come back. But it'll come back much later than I think Johnny Russell's gotten most of his feeling back, and John Cash both have, you know. But see, two bodies are not the same, you know. And here you are, these little things. And finally, the doctor did tell me, though. He said, if you got a hurt in your chest, it might be your foot, but it ain't your heart.
I heard a story through a mutual friend of ours, Arthur Hancock.
Oh, yeah.
That you went into Johnny Cash's room, and John had a big smile on his face, and he said, Waylon, I'm not allergic to morphine.
He said, I walked in, and, you know, here I am like half dead, and And I'm really dreading seeing John, because John's my best friend, you know. And I'm worried about him. In fact, that was kind of bad. They finally had to tell me to quit worrying about John, and he's going to be all right, you know, because it affected me. And here he is, and John is having entirely too much fun. You eat your heart out, Waylon. I ain't allergic to a thing, you know. And he wasn't, man.
Waylon, I want to know about the Four Horsemen, the quartet. You and Chris and Willie and John.
Yeah.
What's happening with that group?
Well, we just did another album together. And, you know, this is the other one. If you remember the first Highwayman album, that was really an accident.
Why?
Well, most things with Willie are accidents, you know. I ain't going to blame it on him. But, I mean, you know, like with artists trying to get together, it's next to impossible, you know. And we had just done this, we'd gone to Switzerland together, all of us, and did John's, like the Christmas special he did over there. And I don't know, one of us, I don't know who it was, and we took Chips Moman with us too. And he was producing Willie and me and, well, all of us at that time. And somebody said, I don't know who it was, said, we ought to cut an album because we did 2 or 3 songs together. And the funny thing, because I remember saying, I got a song. I said, I've had this song for years, but I could never figure out how to do it. And I said, this is perfect, because I said, it's about 4 people, 4 individual things, you know. You can take it as reincarnation or whatever you want to, but it's 4 different people, you know. And I said, I've never been able to figure out. I said, I love this song, though, called The Highwayman, that Jim Webb wrote. And every one of them had that song. And they'd all run into the same problem as me. They didn't know what to do with it.
In fact, I think Glenn Campbell did it as a solo.
He sure did, and it didn't work, you know. And but we got back here, and nobody said any more about it, except that John and Willie were recording together one day, and me and Chris just stumbled in over there, and that's where that came from. So consequently, you know, we had to grab material from anywhere we could get it. We just kind of came in the studio.
Let me get this straight. Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson are recording together.
No, it was Willie and John.
Okay, and then you and Chris just dropped by?
Yeah, and that's how it got started, you know.
What'd they do? They just say, come on in and find a part?
Yeah. Well, they were working on something. I think we got in and got singing together. And so we decided, well, hell, let's just go ahead and do it while we're here.
Now, were they working on The Highwayman?
No, they were working on a duet together. In fact, they had thought of that while they was over there too. And I think it was I Still Miss Someone or something like that they were doing together, John and Willie. And so we just took it from there and went on. And we did. In fact, I don't know if that stuff of John and Willie's ever came out.
Well, all right, how about the new Highwayman album?
Yeah. Well, this one we had time to think about it, you know. And some of us wrote some of the songs. In fact, I wrote 2 of them, I think. And I found one, you know, and all of us wrote something for it, you know, and we had time to pick the material, which makes it, I think, a much better album.
Are these all new songs?
Yeah, about 80-90% of them are, yeah.
Now, didn't you record the thing that George Jones did, the Yabba Dabba Doo?
Yeah. Someday I will kill Billy Sherrill for that, because I called Billy and I said, Billy, this song, I've had this song for about a year. I'd had it for a long time myself, you know, and was going to do it myself. And I heard George did it, and I tried to get old George, and he's on the road, and I called Billy. I said, what are you going to do with it? And he says, George does not want to release this as a single because he's afraid people will take it as an insult to Elvis. And he said, so go ahead and do it. You know, I said, well, I was thinking about taking this to the Highwayman session, you know. And so I did, and we recorded it. And the next thing I know, here's George got a single on it, you know. And I called Billy, and I said, what are you doing, man? He said, don't ask me. He said, all of a sudden, it was all right to release it. And, and they'd gotten George got a great record on it, too.
All right, what's going to come out of the Highwayman album?
I don't know if you remember a song that me and Roger Murrah wrote called Angels Love Bad Men.
Yes.
Well, we did that one. That's one of them that might come out. It came off real good. And there's several things in there. Yabba Dabba Doo might, yeah, because we really got a great cut on that.
Now, I understand that the Hanna-Barbera people objected to using that title, so CBS had to change the title.
I don't know about that. You know what? I don't think you can copyright the English language.
Well, CBS thought enough of it. They retitled George's record.
Yeah. Might be more fun if you get sued.
Well, you get more publicity.
That's right, as long as it's a record company getting sued.
Let's talk about what Waylon is singing solo these days.
Oh, well, I'm going in September and recording and doing a new album. And I ain't going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be different. You know what I found out, Ralph? I look around and I listen to the music nowadays, and there's some great songs out there, some great music, But it's not the music that I sing. May not be again, But what I found out, no matter what I do, and I've cut some good records, but I get more play on my old songs. They have a thing now to where they have the oldies and goodies and golden oldies and all of that. Rather than play a new song by me or John Cash and Chris and consequently Willie coming up now, they had rather have our old ones on, and which is all right.
What is it about today's music, using your term, that you don't like or you don't feel is right for you?
Some of it I don't understand what's happening, I think videos have a lot to do with what's a hit and what with the new artists. The video's been great for the new artists, and because they were in a lot of trouble for a while, because when they were doing the 3 and 7 in a row, there's some of those artists had #1 hits and nobody knew who they were.
You mean where they would play the record and not identify the act?
That's right, yeah, and they still have a little problem with that, But going back to to what's happening now, it reminds me of the middle part of the 70s, because it's almost, I can't tell, some of them are like almost trying to go pop, They're cutting songs that are really old pop standard sounding songs, and I can't sing that, so I don't do that. And
But wait a minute, Waylon, when you were singing down there at J.D.'s,
yeah, but I did them my way.
in Phoenix, a lot of people considered you a country rocker in those days.
A rocker? I'm talking pop music, I'm talking like pop sounds, and well, you know what I'm talking about, arrangements and what have you. And so like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of love, that type thing. I don't sing that kind of music. If those things are hitting, that's fine,
Do you ever use strings?
A couple of times I've used them, a few times, very few. I sang with them not too long ago, and they were fun, downtown here for the sheriff's.
Oh, I remember that. I was there.
Yeah, that was fun. That's the first time I'd ever done that.
You sang with the Nashville Symphony.
Yeah.
But historically, you have never recorded with strings, to my knowledge.
I did, MacArthur Park and some of those early things they put strings on. I can't remember a whole lot of them that I did use strings on. And because along about that time, everybody was using strings. And I kind of bothered me because I thought, well, why not be different and not use them? I wanted to do a pilot for a television thing. And so they asked me if I'd do that. And so I did that. And I thought it would, really, I'll be honest with you, I knew it had to be, so the kids are going to have to love this thing because no adult was going to go for it, And I never thought of it. It lasted 9 years, I think, 9 or 10 years. And I did every one of those things.
So because you had narrated the full-length movie, called what?
It was called Moonrunners.
I don't remember that.
No, you probably don't, and most folks don't.
But because you did that, you got the part to do it in the television series.
Yeah.
Did you do your part in California, or did you overdub your part in Nashville?
No, I did it in Nashville. I did it in California. I did it in Boise, Idaho. They'd send them to me out on the road, and sometimes the guy from the show would come out and bring them out there if they had some things they had to get really right, because I'd go into a radio station and in fact, I did one of them on my bus, because I have the recording equipment on the bus, and I did one of them there, If I told you, it took me about 30, 40 minutes to do that. And if I told you how much they paid me for that per show, and I would really love to find a job like that again.
You mean it would take you 30 to 40 minutes to do one entire show?
One entire show, yeah. And
did they let you do it, interpret the material just the way you wanted to do it?
Yeah, they did. You know what? And another thing, a lot of times I asked them. I told them, I said, you have to let me change it if it's wrong, because they got to send me things that were written from people who were born in New York, and they'd say happier than a pig in slop, which the old saying is happier than a pig eating slop, grinning like a pig eating slop, and something like that, and so. And then another thing they would do is they'd try to write it in country dialect, which is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get on the phone with them. I'd say, don't do that. When you want me to say was, write it W-A-S, and I'll say was. But don't be writing no W-U-Z, But it was a lot of fun to do that. It really was.
It did stay on the air for a long time.
It really did, yeah.
Waylon, I'm curious. You mentioned to me earlier that you were not too crazy about today's country music.
Wasn't that I'm not too crazy about it. I said I can't sing that kind of music.
But who are among the new singers? Who do you like?
Well, I think Dan Seals is one of the greatest singers I ever heard. I love his choice of material. Kyle Lenning. I got to say, me and Tom Paul may have trained old Kyle.
He's a producer.
Yeah, well, he was an engineer for me and Tom Paul when me and Tom Paul used to record Marathon. And in fact, we'd look over there and we'd have to wake Kyle up to help us out he was the engineer. That was the days when we stayed up all the time. And I'm really getting into like the Oak Ridge Boys, songs. See, here's what I'm talking about right here, is Bridges and Walls. If that is not a #1 country song, then I don't know what's happening anymore. And maybe I don't, and that's all right too. And if I don't record it anymore, I'm all right still, but still yet. And I'm all for, because you know what? When I came here, everybody was against what I was trying to do, and I'm all for change for the better, I'm just saying I can't do some of the songs.
Do you like Randy Travis?
Randy Travis is wonderful. I think he's great.
Ricky Van Shelton?
Ricky is really good. But you know what? Now, I think Ricky should do original songs.
Yeah, he does a lot of oldies.
Yeah. And
George Strait?
George Strait, yeah, I don't like Western swing music. I never have.
That's really strange. You grew up in Texas.
Yeah, I never did like it, And I respect it. I think it's great music and everything, but I never could do it. Therefore, I've always, I've been a fan of a lot of music. Like there's songs that I've had, and I can't think offhand, that I had first, that I knew I couldn't, that I wasn't going to, do, but I knew it was a great song, Like, I didn't like Luckenbach, Texas, but I knew it was a great song. I knew it was a hit song, but I didn't like it.
So how did they talk you into?
Nobody did. I did it on my own, I knew I was smart enough to know, but I learned a lesson from that. In fact, I told Richie Albright about a year and a half or 2 years after I had done that, recorded that song. I said, the next time that I do a song, would you remind me that I'm going to have to do it every night for the rest of my life, and make damn sure I like it before I do it next time. But no, what I'm trying to tell you, Ralph, is about the music today and things like that, is some of the songs that are out there. I don't understand, like the Wagoneers, the songs that they do, I couldn't sing those songs because I don't like that kind of a song,
Would you rather sing a ballad or an up-tempo song?
Would
you rather sing Anita, You're Dreaming, or Ramblin' Man?
According to what mood I'm in. That's exactly the way it goes, Some nights I'd like to sing all ballads, but I tell you where I am with them when I'm singing right now. You know what it is? I think about quitting. I think about retiring. I think about not doing it anymore. And then I get out there and I do a show, and the audience, that one-on-one, and that reaction from the audience, and that's all over again, When I was sick, I thought, well, maybe I won't go back, And I was enjoying laying around the house feeling sorry for myself. And then I got out and did the show, and then you're addicted again, You're hooked right back up because You know, there's talent, and then there's inspiration, and then there's the ham in you too.
Yeah, you can become addicted to that applause.
You bet. Yeah. You need it.
Well, I'm sure that your public and Willie's public wonders, will there ever be another Waylon and Willie record?
You know what? There probably will somewhere down the line, but I don't know. You know, we never planned one of them before, so I don't know why we should plan them now. You know, we.
How about Good-Hearted Woman? Was
was
that an accident?
very big accident. The Good-Hearted Woman, the one we did together, was a live cut that I did in Texas, and Willie was somewhere 5,000 miles away. And I just took my voice off. One day me and Willie were running around town here, having a good time, and I said, let's go cut a record. And he says, okay. So we went over to RCA and got that old tape out, and I said, let's just put your voice on here. So we did it. And then we turned around. We both had the same manager then, Neil Reshin. So I turned to Neil and I said, okay, now there's a record, now get it out. Because Willie at that time was, I don't know if he was on Columbia or Atlantic, but one of them, and it was not heard of for you to cross labels and record together. But he got it out. You know, we might do one again. We're going to be doing more things together because we talked about that the other day.
Okay, you record for MCA.
Right.
And Willie records...
No, I record for Universal.
A division of MCA. And Willie records for CBS.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, of course, everybody that records with Willie, I guess, has to cross label lines.
Well, at that time, he came over had him on RCA there. And we just kind of made swap outs and say, okay, this time we'll do it over here, and next time we do it over there. In fact, we did 2 albums one time, one for them and one for me.
As a swap or
yeah.
a trade-off. Are you planning to take up full-time touring again?
I'm pretty well doing it now, yeah. And I'm gonna, I do more of it in the summer because we have Shooter, and he's seeing that he's raised right is more important. So we're trying to fix it where we're home more in the times when he's in school. But we've really been hitting it hard in the summertime, and do the fairs and what have you. But yeah, you know what, Ralph? I don't know. I think about it. I think everybody thinks about they're tired of what they're doing every once in a while, and then it takes about a week and a half, and you start walking the floor and don't know what's wrong, but you got to go back to work.
I used to play records with Tex Ritter. We'd do that 3 nights a week, 4 nights a week, and he would always be ready to go back on the road on the weekend.
Yeah, I love Tex Ritter. You know what? I think if we could all keep the attitude that Tex Ritter had about himself and about the music business and about what was happening. He was never jealous of anything, and you knew him better than anybody. I usually with him every night, But I was around him, and he never let any of the new guys coming in town. He always made you feel welcome, but he never did let you take yourself too serious. Because Tex Ritter always called me Piss Ain't.
Waylon, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. I always enjoy it.